Like the last couple of years, you've like purposely picked this fight with the red states. I mean, the but I don't want to live in the Civil War country.
I agree with that.
You know what? Well, but you seem like you purposely want to set up this dichotomy between, oh, this is a blue state and that's a red state.
Yeah. You got folks out there trying to bring us back to a pre-1960s world. America in reverse, rolling back voting rights, LGBTQ rights, women's rights, not just access to abortion, but contraception. I mean, it's a profound and consequential moment. And you could sit by and say, well, I really want to get along, as these guys are rolling back the
governor gave this creepy speech where he was talking about speculators coming in and talking about what to do with the land of all these homes that have been burnt down.
We're dealing with a myriad of issues. I was just talking to Josh Green, the governor down in Hawaii, who had some ideas around some land use concerns he has around speculators coming in, buying up properties.
While it's still only 6% contained, and he did this little dance.
Bill Maher and California Governor Gavin Newsom just had a showdown on Real Time with Bill Maher. And let's just say, things got intense fast. Maher has never shied away from calling out woke culture. But this time, he took it up a notch, putting Newsom on the defensive with hard-hitting questions. The governor struggled to keep up as Maher pressed him on key issues, turning what started as a debate into a heated exchange. So, who came out on top? Let's dive in. Just wait until you hear the audience's reaction.
Not this year, we know. No, I know. But he said, I don't think he could win. I don't think he could win. He's too progressive coming from this state and what he's done in this state to win in any southern state, any red state. I disagreed, but no, this is a progressive African-American owned station, and I'm sure they like you, but he doesn't think you can win. What do you say to that if you could win look at the swing states, there's only 8 of them.
Right. Well, I mean, California is an interesting case study, isn't it? It's the size of 21 state populations combined.
Yeah.
2/3 of the state is very deeply red. We don't need to be lectured on rural politics or border issues. I mean, in so many ways, these are familiar issues, and the issues of the heartland of the United States are very much a part and parcel of the work we're doing in this state. But look, I understand this notion that you're from the coast, you don't understand those things. You can't talk the language. You're not able to communicate, and you're not able to actually encourage and find that common ground.
It's stuff like there's a new law in this. I think we have way too many regulations and laws, as we've talked about. And this one, I think, says if you're a department store with over 500 employees, you have to have a gender-neutral toy department.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, I get it.
So do you think that's silly? Do you think that's a silly thing that we too much government, too much?
If you listen closely, you can hear the audience gasp, because no one expected this. Maher had Newsom pinned, and for a split second, you could see the hesitation in his face, the scramble for a response. It was like watching a cat play with a high-profile mouse, one with a VIP salon membership and a well-rehearsed media playbook. But Newsom isn't one to fold under pressure. The second he saw an opening, he took it. Now, let's hear his response. Then I'll break it all down.
That's an interesting one, because the department stores came to us supporting that, and they were the ones making a case for that. They were making us. They're already moving in that direction.
Wanted you to make a law about them?
Well, but they supported the legislation. It wasn't legislation that was enacted, that was initiated from my office, but it was legislation that came up with interesting support from the industry itself. But I understand how that's exploited, and good people can disagree. But that's not something we woke up and said, this is a top priority for the state, when we know the top priorities are homelessness, housing, the issues of crime, quality of life, and issues related to regulation and taxes, which are all top of mind. But I get how those things are weapons.
The question was simple. Does Gavin Newsom believe the government is overstepping by requiring large toy retailers to have a gender-neutral section? A yes or no would have sufficed, but of course that would be too easy. Instead, Newsom danced around the issue, talking about how department stores supposedly support the mandate. Sure. Even if that were true, it completely sidesteps the real question. Classic political maneuvering. This is what happens when politicians, especially on the left, try to justify government overreach. They twist, turn, and spin like they're playing political twister, hoping no one catches the contradictions. But Maher wasn't having it. Watch closely. He starts with a compliment, then pulls the rug right out from under Newsom.
So, I got you here, because I live here and I'm not going anywhere. So I just want to make this a better state like everybody else.
Amen.
And good job this year making it rain.
You're welcome. That was my legislative priority.
Maher starts with a little praise, just enough to make Newsom shift uncomfortably, like he knows a storm is coming, and he's right. Was that an awkward chuckle from the audience? Yep, they felt it too. They could see their golden boy was about to walk straight into a rhetorical buzzsaw. Newsom, ever the polished politician, was setting up for his big mic drop moment, but Maher beat him to it. And when it landed, it wasn't just a mic drop. It was a full-on wrecking ball. The governor flailed, the audience cringed. And Maher? He just leaned back and watched it all unfold.
Enough water in the Colorado River and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then whenever I read, 80% of the water goes to agriculture. Almonds.
Right.
No one ever asked you about almonds? Oh, I'm going to ask you about almonds. We grow a boatload of almonds.
I'm well
here.
aware.
You know how much water it takes?
Many gallons.
1,900 gallons to grow a pound of almonds.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Take on big almond.
Take on big almonds.
I mean, it's not like we don't have the water.
Another tough question from Maher. For years, California politicians have warned about water shortages, blaming it on dwindling rivers and droughts. But here's the catch. Investigations show there's actually plenty of water. So what's the real issue? Almonds. Yep. Those little nuts are soaking up a massive 80% of California's water supply. More than all indoor household use combined. And their contribution to the state's economy? Just 2%. Maher wasn't about to let that slide. He hit Newsom with a blunt question. What is your office actually doing to fix this crisis? And that's when Newsom did what politicians do best. Sidestepped the issue like he was trying out for Dancing with the Stars.
Years with these atmospheric rivers. Wets are getting a lot wetter, dry's drier, hot's getting a lot hotter. And so we've got to modernize our conveyance system. We've got to modernize our storage, not just above ground, but below ground. And so that's a big part of our focus and frame, including desalinization plants. We have 20 projects just on desal that we're working on today. So we put out a detailed water strategy that includes, by the way, getting that Delta Conveyance project back up and operational, and includes the first above ground off-stream storage facility in half a century in the state, which, by the way, is being aided by a regulatory package I pushed forward to reduce red tape in the state of California and address the permitting quagmires that you rightfully point out.
Did you catch the verbal gymnastics? Because I sure did. Maher's question was simple. What is Newsom actually doing about the almond industry draining California's water supply? But instead of a straight answer, Newsom dodged like a seasoned pro. Rather than confronting the fact that nearly all of California's water is funneled into an industry contributing just 2% to the state's GDP, he launched into a polished speech about rainwater storage and vague conservation efforts. Classic misdirection. This is straight out of the political playbook. When faced with an uncomfortable truth, dodge, distract, and drown the conversation in jargon. But Maher wasn't buying it, and neither was his audience. Just look at his smirk. He saw right through it. Say what you want about Maher, but this is why people respect him. He doesn't just question talking points, he tears them apart. And if this interview proved anything, it's that when contradictions get exposed, some narratives crumble faster than a gluten-free cookie in a Berkeley cafe.
The last couple of years, you've purposely picked this fight with the red states. I mean, the
Yes.
yeah, but I don't want to live in the Civil War.
I agree with that.
You know what?
Well,
but you seem like you purposely want to set up this dichotomy between, this is a blue state and that's a red state, and I don't want to live in that country. I like Florida.
I'm with you. And by the way, I like Florida as well. I like all these states. I completely agree. I don't want to have a state of mind that's a constant fight or flight. We've gone through so much. We've been polarized and traumatized. This has been a tough 5-6 years across the globe, not just in this country. That said, I'm not going to sit back and watch. You made the point just a moment ago in your monologue. You got folks out there trying to bring us back to a pre-1960s world. America in reverse, rolling back voting rights, LGBTQ rights, women's rights, not just access to abortion, but contraception. I mean, it's a profound and consequential moment. And you could sit by and say, well, I really want to get along as these guys are rolling back the clock, or you can stand tall and assert yourself. And the reason I started to go into those red states, the reason I started to take on DeSantis, and the reason I started doing ads in these red states is I didn't feel my party was doing enough. It was CRT one year, and then it's ESG, and it's DEI, anything with 3 letters. These guys keep coming, and their shapes.
Newsom is a pro at dodging tough questions, which is exactly why he carefully curates his media appearances, avoiding anyone who might actually push for real answers. Can't have that, right? Maher's sarcasm says it all. His tone is dripping with skepticism. You can tell he sees Newsom as just another polished politician, rehearsed, smooth-talking, and full of empty rhetoric. The kind who can spin a conversation in circles for hours without actually saying anything. The kind who delivers vague platitudes with so much confidence, even he might start believing them. But here's the problem. Maher isn't buying it, and neither is the audience, judging by their reaction.